is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube station? We're back. Week 2, Sunday Night Football, brought to you by SHIPITNation.com. I got my guy Hamwich with me like we do each and every single week. Back for 18 weeks straight, Ham. You and I breaking down the Sunday Night Football. 300K up top here tonight. This is a pre-recorded show, so everybody watching on playback, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. And if you are not a member yet, head over to SHIPITNation.com. Click on Join Now and get in the best community in the industry. You saw that prelude video there, Ham. Week 1 was a massive success. On to Week 2 here. Looking to keep that ball rolling, man. Tons of screenshots from $100 into $117,000, $18,000 by our guy Big Marley, all the way down to multiple members, right? Throwing a couple dollars in here, making back 4 or 5 figures on their investment. So looking to have some more of that going into Week 2 here. Sunday Night Football should be a great game. Main slate is 13 games. Our guys are on breaking that down nice and early Sunday morning. But, man, I'm going to bring you in. Happy weekend. College football on the docket all day today. What's going on, brother? Happy Saturday.
Yeah, going good. Just watching some football now. Looking forward to this. Talk about this show. Talk about this game. I mean, I think it's going to be a good real-life game. I think Caleb Williams is absolutely horrendous. I wrote that up last week. I was all over the Titans' defense. Defense willed them to victory, and I am probably the biggest hater of Caleb Williams. Don't think he's a very good football player. Hey, but we'll see what happens tonight.
Oh, that makes 2 of us. It's a good that we're on the same show here because I think Caleb Williams is going to be a big flop. I mean, that Bears organization, they just cannot develop anyone. I love it. I'm, as you can see, wide receiver number 1 in Week 1, Jaden Reed, my boy here. I'm a huge Packers fan, and guess what? My second favorite team in the NFL is the Bears. You know why, Ham? They guarantee us 2 wins a year as Packer fans, so it's always great. They're patting our pockets here up in Titletown District, but I mean, Bears Bears front office and that organization there is tough sledding, man. It's a tough scene because Justin Fields, who I think is a much better quarterback than Caleb Williams, couldn't get the job done because guess what? He had no offensive line. He's way more mobile than that. Guess what? Caleb Williams still has no offensive line there. He still has a terrible front office, still has a terrible staff behind him. Poor guy's going there to die. I mean, yeah, USC, right? It's not like he's coming from Georgia or Alabama or like a big power, like Ohio State or something like that, a big powerhouse school in college football. I mean, came from USC for Christ's sakes. I just don't think he's a very good quarterback, but I guess time will tell. That brings us in here tonight, man. Rookie quarterback, going on the road here to head out to Houston. His first road start, 45.5 is the total. Houston favored by 6. And, man, Week 1 was the Joe Mixon show. All Joe Mixon, and then that high-powered offense of a second year here, sophomore season for a real quarterback, a certified stud, C.J. Stroud. I mean, you want to talk about the tale of two turns here. I mean, C.J. Stroud looks like the real freaking deal. We saw it all late last season. I think we're going to see it again here tonight. It's going to be an interesting game to break down. 6-point favorites, 45.5 is the total here for Houston. We're going to go through captains. We're going to go through some flex plays, talk about a little bit of roster construction, and bring in game theory and showdown thoughts throughout the entire show. But as we do that, go ahead in the comment section below. Drop your favorite captains and what you think the score of the game is. We're going to look back at those throughout the year. We pull our giveaways from the interactions on these videos. Helps us out a ton. So go ahead and do that. Who you have for your favorite captain and what you think the script of the game is going to be there. We always love to look back at that. But, Ham, I'm going to throw it over to you. Any overview of the game? How do you think it plays out here? Personally, I think Chicago's in over their head, but we're going to find out here. Talk to me. What do you think for this game as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Texans in this game. They're 6.5-point favorites. I think they get that lead. And then, Caleb Williams in garbage time, second half time, he's going to spread it around to the likes of DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. We got to see what's going on with the Dunze and Allen. They're both beat up. But, I mean, I was just like everybody last week. I mean, it was the Joe Mixon show. Like you said, he was rocking and rolling against that Colts defensive line. I think, $150 or close to $150 on that game. C.J. Stroud still threw it 32 times in that contest. I think he completed 24 of those passes. So, he's a really good player. Sophomore season, they got 3 legit weapons. Number ones on a bunch of other teams. So, I think the Texans win the game. I think it's going to be a DFS delight. And I know Houston, especially Showdown slate, Houston has a special place in your heart. Take you back to the Thursday night game, 2 years ago with the Eagles. So when you and Tambo shipped the same night. So yeah, you're always on those Texans showdown games.
Yeah, Texans Showdowns games. Back to my roots here. Maybe it's a little tight end captain shipper here tonight. We'll see. Maybe a little Dalton Schultz action. Who knows? But yeah, nonetheless, great overview here. Let's talk it. Let's take us into the captain spot here. And right, Joe Mixon coming off that massive game, got all the work. I mean, he looks like a true bell cow back here in this offense, especially now with the underlying hamstring issues going on with Dameon Pierce, right? Dameon Pierce was the guy in this backfield last season. Now Joe Mixon coming over from Cincinnati, and finally a team that can unleash him, man. Maybe Joe Mixon's laughing in his dust, right? Getting out of that Cincinnati Bengals offense that looked absolutely pitiful in week one here. Joe Mixon didn't look pitiful, I'll tell you that right now. I mean, he got 30 carries, right? 3 targets, was involved in the passing game, just absolutely slammed it on the slate. And he leads the slate here tonight in terms of pricing for the captain position. Take us down in the captain position. Typically, I'm a wide receiver guy, but this could be a different spot. I do want to mention that Caleb Williams, 13-2 in the captain spot, likely going to be playing in a trailing script here. I mean, 8-8 for a flex pricing on Caleb Williams for a starting quarterback. That's right around that price point, Ham, where it gets pretty tough not to click that name, despite how bad we feel about him. It's under 9K. I think it's more of a flex play, but that's right around the price point where captain consideration comes into talk. I just like rushing quarterbacks more, but that should keep his ownership down because everybody likes rushing quarterbacks more up top. I think wide receiver, I mean, who do you pick? Nico Collins? Do you go Tank Dell? Do you go Stephon Diggs, right? It's a 3-headed monster there. They still got Dalton Schultz. They still got Joe Mixon. It's much more condensed, I think, on the Bears side. They should be in a trailing script. Maybe that alludes us to some more Bears captains in playing a catch-up script kind of thing. But throw it over to you, man. Where are you going from a captain position? Talk to me.
Yeah, just like, Hoop says it all the time, right? He thinks Dak's a terrible quarterback, and maybe he is. Kyler, same thing. But hey, we're playing DFS, and can Caleb get 35 yards rushing and a touchdown? Yeah, and throw for 190 and 2? Absolutely. So yeah, I agree with you there that he's in play. I just don't think he's a good real life quarterback. But um, Joe Mixon 15-3 is kind of intriguing, being up top there. I mean, we saw what the Titans did last Sunday against this Bears defense, and Titans have a pretty bad offensive line, but Tony Pollard looked like peak Tony Pollard against the Bears, defense last week. So I don't mind Mixon. I think he's not going to get 30 carries again. Obviously, don't like him. I don't like Joe Mixon. I certainly wouldn't hate it if you did. I'm like you though. I typically like to get a wide receiver, somebody up there in that range. The two for the Texans, Tank Dell. Tank Dell can take the top off of it more than those other two. And then Nico Collins would be number 2 for me. I don't think I'm going to get Diggs in the captain spot. Obviously, I know Diggs had the 2 touchdowns last week, but I think Tank Dell can do something like 6 for 150 and 2, and he can really blow this game open. So give me some Tank Dell, give me some Nico Collins would be my favorite 2 Texans. I think Mixon would be my 3rd favorite. Then obviously you're going to want to throw C.J. Stroud in there at some point. And then on the Bears side, interested to see who you like, but there's 2 Bears I really like. That would be DJ Moore. Virtually played every snap last week. They found a way to get him 8 targets, and I think he had 2 or 3 end arounds or rushing plays. So he's their best receiver. We know Adunze's hurt. We know Allen's hurt. Wait to see their availability. And then lastly, DeAndre Swift. I don't mind DeAndre Swift. I think he's pretty cheap for a captain. Let me just a 10-5, 10-5 on DeAndre and the captain. I don't hate that um, because he's got rushing and receiving ability. And if Caleb's getting pressured all night, you're going to see a lot of dump offs and dink offs. We saw it with Oxane the other night. I mean, Cook had 3 touchdowns. It wasn't even optimal. It was Oxane that outscored him. So I think Swift in that similar mold for the Bears. I don't mind him in the captain spot either.
Yeah, no, excellent breakdown there. And you alluded to it, right? The Tennessee success they had running the football. I mean, Tony Pollard went 16 for 82 and a touchdown. Tajay Spears, right, went 4 for 21, didn't score a touchdown. And then Will Levis had 4 for 36 on the ground. So, I mean, they gashed this squad for what, roughly 130, 140 yards on the ground. I mean, that definitely won the trenches. And Houston showed success rushing the football in week one. I mean, so they typically they showed success running against Tennessee, right? Who last season Tennessee was a run stopping force. Obviously, they got some different personnel in there and that, but I mean, Joe Mixon, he got the lion's share, especially with the especially with the hamstring injury for Pierce. I mean, this is Joe Mixon. I mean, this screams a smash spot, and typically running backs just don't get the usage up top in terms of the ownership. I mean, he's going to get ownership, but having him be the most expensive captain on the slate, I think, keeps his ownership in check. I mean, it's much easier to click a CJ Stroud at 14-7, right? Or it's much easier to click a Stephon Diggs, right? A Nico Collins, a Tank Dell for cheaper, right? Because everybody wants the air raid. I can very, very well see Houston just being okay at home, smash mouth football, get a lead, right? And just pound Joe Mixon again. He's the bell cow here. And make Caleb Williams be playing scared, right? Oh man, I got to chase the clock, right? I got to chase the clock, make mistakes. I think that's an interesting route. So I do have some interest in Joe Mixon up top. Typically, I'm a little underweight on running backs, but not going to be the case here tonight. I do like him. I really like Tank Dell. I love Tank Dell here. Everybody saw Nico Collins smash week one. Everyone saw Stephon Diggs smash week one there. Guess what? Tank Dell is still there. He's 11-1. I talk about it all the time, Ham. That 11-1 sweet spot price point for the captain just allows you to get very, very good teams. I mean, you save $3,000-$4,000 at that captain spot for a guy that has just as much ceiling potential as any of these other guys. His floor is not quite the same, but in tournaments, what are we looking for? We're looking for ceiling outlying performances, right? And that's what you want. I think that's what you get with Tank Dell. I absolutely love Tank Dell up top. And then I'm with you. Nico Collins is good, but I think going back to the Stephon Diggs, I think is each interesting route. So for me, I'm going to be more condensed on the Houston captains here. I think that's the chalkier side, but it's hard for me to ignore what the upside there. The one bear that I do have interest in, and you alluded to it, is DJ Moore. I think we could see a great script here for DJ Moore. I think he goes back to the lion's share alpha in this wide receiver room with with Odunze and Keenan Allen being banged up here. DJ Moore, big target, rookie making his first start on the road here. For Caleb Williams, I think you tap into the alpha, right? That playbook was designed last year around DJ Moore. I mean, it was the DJ Moore show with Justin Fields. It was pretty boring show overall over the course of the season, but DJ Moore still had how many multiple breakout slate winning performances and many on Showdown. So I could see a build where you go 2-4, meaning DJ Moore in the captain spot, throw another like a DeAndre Swift or even maybe a Caleb Williams at just 8,800. And then you run it back with 4 Texans. You throw in a Nico Collins to get those target shares. You fade a CJ Stroud in that type of build. You go Joe Mixon, you go Nico Collins. Maybe you play the kicker and someone else. You fade CJ Stroud. I think that's a very, very unique, interesting route to go here tonight. Any thoughts on that? But outside of that, I mean, we tend to agree on these captains. It's for me, Tank Dell's my favorite, followed by Joe Mixon. DJ Moore is going to be my third favorite, and then I'm going Stephon Diggs as 4. Nico Collins would be 5, just because I think ownership filters the other way. I think Nico Collins is the chalkiest captain when all said and done. But any thoughts on that DJ Moore 2-4 type build where you fade a CJ Stroud in the flex?
Yeah, no, I mean DJ Moore, like you said, I think it was against the Commanders last year that he and Fields like went for 200 yards or something crazy, and he has that kind of ability, and they're going to get him the ball. I mean, they just are. So yeah, I mean, once again, going back to that Miami game, Octane they lost by 20, and he was optimal. I think it was a 2-4 that you needed to have Octane the other night. So I don't hate the DJ Moore call. I mean, obviously, I like him in the captain as well. You'll be unique, right? If you have two Bears and 4 Texans, and then obviously with a Bear in the captain spot. So don't hate that at all. I actually don't hate it with Swift. I know it doesn't sound like you're on Swift at all. in the captain spot, but I wouldn't hate it for DJ Moore or DeAndre Swift if you're going to put a bear in the captain spot.
Yeah, it's just I mean, I don't like running backs typically in the captain spot, especially running backs who are expected to have a pretty bad game script. I get it. Swift has been a big factor when he was not on the Bears in terms of out of the backfield. But last week he only had one target in the air, right? And I mean, I get it, that game, but majority of the game, Ham, if you remember, majority of that game, Chicago was trailing the entire game until their defense kind of turned it over in the second, basically late in the third and in the fourth quarter when Will Levis threw 2 picks, right? One went back to the house. I mean, they won 24-17, but realistically, they were trailing that entire game, which kind of would have been the script that we're expecting here tonight. And Swift just was not involved. I don't know if that's Caleb Williams, if that's the shitty front office that the Chicago Bears have, not getting this guy involved, because he is very, very good out of the backfield in terms of dump offs and making people miss in space and things like that. They just didn't do it. So it's just hard for me. I get it. It's a 1-game sample. You don't want to put everything on that. But, I mean, he's right at that price point in the captain's position. I'd much rather just go up to Tank Dell, to be honest. I don't think ownership's really going to matter. So could be a contrarian play. I just didn't like his involvement in that trailing game script that we saw in week 1, despite what the score says, right? A lot of people who didn't watch that game will think, oh, DeAndre Swift only scored 5 points and they won that game by a touchdown. Wasn't like that the whole game. It was a perfect script for him to get dump offs out of the backfield. And they still have 3 guys there, right? They still have Khalil Herbert and Travis Homer, who they'll bring in as well on third downs and things like that. So for me, I'm not so much interest in there. But let's rank our top captains before we talk some flex and lineup construction here.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nico Collins number 1, but if he's gonna be the highest owned, probably bump down. But Nico Collins is my favorite, followed by Tank Dell, DJ Moore, and then I mean, what are you seeing? And then CJ Stroud, I do like him. Like you said, we normally like running quarterbacks in the captain, but don't hate him at captain. And then I would round it out with some DeAndre Swift in number 5.
Yeah, I just think Nico Collins, just because, right, everyone takes week 1 and uses it as a Bible, which is crazy, right? I mean, it takes 3, 4, 5 weeks to get a good sample size to really kind of get an understanding. That's when we obviously launch our defense first position rankings and things like that to actually get a good sample size. I just think Nico Collins, they look at that game log, 8 targets, he went 6 for 117, didn't score a touchdown and still scored 21 points. But like you said, right, I mean, Tank Dell had 1 less target than Nico Collins. Stephon Diggs had 2 less targets. I mean, they all had 6, 7, and 8 targets between the 3 of them. So I'm just going to flip it. I mean, Tank Dell allows you to build a totally different roster construction, being at his price point, 7,400 in the flex. Up in the captain spot, he's 11-1. I really like that a lot. So he's going to be my favorite. And then I'm going to go to Joe Mixon, and then DJ Moore, and then my 4th is going to be Stephon Diggs. I do like Nico Collins, but like I said, I think he's going to be the chalkiest. Again, it's Saturday night here. Ownership projections really aren't out, but still, I still think I'm going to flip him and put Nico Collins as my last interest from a captain perspective on the Houston side. Jumping over to the flex, obviously, all the same kind of captain talk that we already had still applies here, but the conversation, right? We got to talk kickers and defenses. You got Fairbairn at 4,800, Santos at 4,400, the Texans D at just 4K, and then the Bears defense all the way down at 3K. Man, anytime you get a defense, especially a defense who last week had, 2 touchdowns, right? $3,000 on Showdown. All it takes is 1 jump route to the house. CJ Stroud is still a young quarterback. He can make mistakes. All it takes is a strip sack to the house, a fumble, right? Anything to the house at 3K. Man, he's almost $2,000 cheaper than the kickers. Really hit on those. Let's start there. Let's start there in the flex. Start on kickers and defenses, because they've been interesting talking points all season for these showdowns since we saw kickoff this season. Last year it was defenses. This year it seems kickers. But what are you thinking here for tonight? It is a pretty low total, so typically I'd have more interest in these kickers and Ds. But what are you looking at here?
Yeah, it's interesting just because when you start to go down, for me anyway, when you start to go down and look at everybody that's left, let's say sub 5K, there's not a whole lot of options down there. And generally speaking, you're going to have somebody down there, and it's going to be kickers and defenses, in my opinion. Obviously, I think that Caleb Williams much more prone to make a mistake. He was under 50% completion percentage in the preseason. He was under 100 yards passing and under 50% completion. I think he's more likely to make a mistake. And obviously, if the Texans defense is scoring touchdowns, that's going to take away touchdowns from their offense. So if you have the Texans, you may want to think about that. If you're rostering somebody in the captain spot. So I like the Texans defense over the Bears. Like you said, that Bears defense 3K. That's a great price for them. They had 2 touchdowns, block punt, and a pick 6. And they got some certified dudes over there on that side of the ball, so I don't hate that. This Texans offensive line, I know they had a good week last week, but it's one of the, I would say, they're in the bottom third. Offensive line rankings, and Montez Sweat's on the other side, creating havoc. So definitely don't hate that Bears defense. I like the defenses better than the kickers, just due to price. And then Fairbairn and Santos, both pretty good kickers. Both can get up into the 50+ range. So I'll be having some of those kickers. Just I haven't built lineups yet, but ultimately we'll have some. If and when I get down there to it.
Yeah, I really like, looking at the skill position value, once we talk on that, I like being above the kickers and the Ds in terms of rounding out my teams with a kicker and maybe a defense or double kicker even, because, man, you look below that Bears price point of 3K, it gets pretty gross. Brevin Jordan, DeAndre Carter, maybe, Gerald Everett, maybe, Tyler Scott, maybe. But, man, it drops off very, very quickly. So that's kind of where I'm looking at, like that Tank Dell style captain, right? Just to build a much more balanced team. Obviously, I play more single entry and 20 max stuff. I don't really get to the 150 max. Obviously, you're going to sprinkle some of these guys in 150 max, but play lighter. I always play tighter, as Tambo saying goes. So, man, it's going to be tough for me to get below those guys, like you alluded to, right? I think that Bears defense at 3K, despite even the people clicking the game log watching and seeing that, I just don't think they get a ton of ownership here. I really like Fairbairn as well. I think the Texans D is also a good play here. Texans D was pretty good last season in terms of overall scoring, like points and getting turnovers. And guess what? We both shit on Caleb Williams off the top of the show. It's his first road start, man, and it's not an easy place to go and play in Texas, right? You got a very powerful offense with tons of weapons on the other side. He could try and get up to speed, right, and try and match the output of a CJ Stroud and match that firepower that the Houston offense is showing. He could easily make a mistake or 2 or 3 and throw a pick 6 here or there, right? So I don't mind that Texans D right there at their price point at $4,000. They're basically priced the same as Khalil Herbert, who's playing 30% of the snaps. I don't hate it. So I think we broke that down. I have more interest in the kickers than you do, just because I'm going to have the salary to round up my teams with these guys versus going down to that punt range. That's kind of why I like that Tank Dell style captain and saving a little money there. Let's talk on the rest of the value plays on this slate below the kickers and defenses here. Already brought it up, but the Bears are going to be shorthanded. Likely in the wide receiver room. Keenan Allen didn't play the fourth quarter there. Odunze didn't practice yesterday in Friday. They said he's not at risk for a further injury, but don't know yet. Obviously, inactives come out 90 minutes before the game, and we'd have more. But DeAndre Carter came in for Keenan Allen in the fourth quarter there. I think got 3 targets or ran a couple routes there. And then the other guy here, Tyler Scott, at $600. He's a flyer. He's a burner. And guess what? What happened to Houston last week? Who burned him last week? Alec Pierce. What is Alec Pierce? A home run hitter, bomber, down the seam. Tyler Scott at $600. All it takes is one play as a value play. They're going to likely be shorthanded there. Don't love them a ton if all those guys are back, but still, I think they're going to be on pitch counts and snap counts on a Keenan Allen and a Dunze, especially second game of the season on a short week here coming back for what do you think there in terms of this value? Tyler Scott, I mean, it's pretty weak, like we already alluded to, but
Yeah,
I don't hate it.
yeah. I'm not going there. What I do like is some DeAndre Carter. And then if you're going to pay $600, I'd rather just get up to 1,200 and get Velus Jones Jr., who got some carries early in the game. He's a running back / wide receiver, but he was playing early in the game, even when all those dudes were healthy. I think they slot him in. He had a boneheaded kickoff return fumble early on and got him in the doghouse. But I like Velus Jones at $1,200 over Tim Scott. He can do it a lot of different ways. He's a home run hitter as well. So give me Velus Jones over Scott. I know he's $600 difference, but those would be the two bears that I like down there. And like you said, I mean, if either one of Adunze or Allen have to sit out, we're going to look at their direct pivot and see who gets in there, and their ownership will skyrocket up the board, especially based on price.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, we got to pay more attention there to Dunze and Keenan Allen's status there. Keenan Allen direct pivot would be to DeAndre Carter. He would become pretty chalky at 2K. It allows you to get much more of those Texas guys in there that everybody wants to go to. But yeah, overall, pretty good breakdown there. Let's go up the board a little bit and talk on some of these other guys in terms of the flex. I mean, Joe Mixon, Nico Collins all the way up at the top, obviously, but CJ Stroud at sub 10K. I mean, that's a pretty good price point. And then really good price point. I mean, like I said, Caleb Williams at just 8,800 in the flex. I mean, he's the sixth most expensive flex play on the slate, and he's the starting quarterback in a trailing script. Pretty hard not to click that name in the flex position. I expect him to be probably the highest owned guy in the flex. I don't hate it. I mean, just value, just opportunity alone is going to be tough for him not to get there. But DeAndre Swift, you had some interest in him. 7K in the flex, I think, is the interesting play. And then touch on Dalton Schultz and Cole Kmet. Touch on like that 5K to 8,800 range, because I think that's a pretty important range here tonight. What's your thoughts on those kind of guys?
Yeah, I mean, once you like you said earlier, I mean, it was a 1 game sample, but Kmet was just iced out of the game. I mean, one target, didn't really seem involved. I don't hate him, but then Dalton Schultz was on the field for 70 plus percent of the snaps. He's going to be the forgotten one. I was building teams as you were talking. It's tough to get obviously all these big boys in there. So you're going to need a Dalton Schultz. You're going to need a Kmet. You're going to need some of these kickers and or defenses. So I think that's the route, in my opinion, is getting some of these mid-tier guys. I would have Dalton Schultz over Kmet naturally, because we like the Texans offense a little bit better. I would have Schultz over Kmet, and certainly don't hate that. If I'm pairing, if I'm using a tight end, I generally like to pair him with the quarterback in some form or fashion, right? They don't have to be in the captain, but certainly want to pair them with the quarterback. Reason being is it's very rare that a tight end scores or does a lot of damage if he's not bringing his quarterback along. So that's generally the way I play Showdown.
Yeah. Interesting to note. I mean, looking at the snaps, guess who outsnapped Cole Kmet here at the tight end position? Obviously, Dalton Schultz did, but who else? There's another tight end on this slate that's way cheaper. Outsnapped Cole Kmet in week 1. Brevin Jordan actually outsnapped Cole Kmet. Obviously, it's a different team, but Brevin Jordan at 1,600, I don't hate that. I mean, he played over 50% of the snaps, played 51% of the snaps there. He can easily leak out and catch a touchdown there. We've seen it multiple times there, so I don't hate him. I really don't like Cole Kmet much. The only argument I will make, I mean, he played sub 50% of the snaps in a trailing script there. Usually that tight end is a safety blanket, right, for a young quarterback, especially on the road here. That's the only argument I would put in Cole Kmet's case is I expect it to be a trailing script, middle of the field, that big tight end, Cole Kmet. It can be a safety blanket for a young quarterback like Caleb Williams making his first road start here. I still hate it, man. 48% of the snaps. I'm just not a big Cole Kmet guy, especially at that price. I mean, 5K is a good price point, but 5,600, you get Dalton Schultz, who's basically wide receiver 4 in this offense, played 80% of the snaps, has massive upside for $600 more. So I think we hit on this flex in the value plays and everything. I think consensus roster construction is going to be a 4-2 on the Texans side. I think flipping it to a Bears captain with 4 Texans is an interesting way to go. And if you play 4 Bears, I think you're going to be very, very unique. 5-1s, I think, definitely in play here tonight. I could see a case where Houston just absolutely murders this team, especially if Keenan Allen, kind of another safety blanket guy, and Adunze are down for the Bears. It gets pretty weak pretty quickly for this offense. You could definitely see a scenario where Houston just kind of smashes these guys at home here and just says, welcome to our house, right? I'm the real deal here, Stroud. Stroud took Caleb Williams, right? I'm the real deal in this game, and just they absolutely own them, pound the rock with Mixon, keep them off the field, and kind of just control it. Could definitely see that, but I'm kind of leaning that 2-4 build. I think that's kind of unique and kind of interesting here. But any closing thoughts on roster construction or closing thoughts for the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, hopefully it's a good game. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I think we broke it down pretty good. Just going, looking back over some of these players, man. Like I said earlier, it gets rough down there. Once you get past Komet, I know we don't really love Komet. And Gerald Everett actually played more than Komet last week. I don't know if you said that or not, but Gerald Everett had more snaps than Cole Komet. So, does that trend continue? That the Shane Waldron, the new OC, he's kind of a donkey. I mean, the Seahawks offense wasn't great. Then they hired this guy. Eberflus looks in over his head too, the head coach. So, like your boy A-Rod used to say, he owns the Bears, right? And so hopefully the Texans own the Bears Sunday night as well.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Gerald Everett. He did play 61% of the snaps I see here for Gerald Everett, and he's 2,400. So I put both Brevin Jordan and Gerald Everett over Cole Kmet here. So I think the consensus slander on Cole Kmet means he's going to go for freaking 112 and 2 or some shit like that, and just absolutely dust us. But if that's the case, I will not be winning money because I'm going to be significantly underweight, probably full fade in Cole Kmet here. But great breakdown. Overall, I think we talked through it. As always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. All of our content will be up at SHIPITNation.com. I'll have my core in the Discord. Ham is on the FanDuel. He'll throw a FanDuel core up. Our guy Jerry, Tidal, Hoop, Tambo, all have full content, player pools, slate plans, everything. If you're not a member, SHIPITNation.com. Join now. And get in the best community in the industry, all sports. For you get an optimizer for all sports and all sports content for under $100 a month. That's absolutely unheard of in this industry. Ham, I don't know what people are doing if they're not a member yet at Ship It Nation. Definitely are seeing these logos at the top of these leaderboards because we've been absolutely murdering it. But good luck tonight, or good luck for your Sunday main slate. Hopefully you're watching this video with some nice green in that top right-hand corner of that DraftKings app. Hopefully that holds until the end of lock. Good luck building those teams. Hope to see those Ship It Nation logos at the top for this game. For Hamwich, I'm Nades. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.